The following feature presentation is part of the Skywalking Network.
All wings report in, Skywalkers! And welcome to Resistance Flyby, our recap review show where we buzz through each of the 22 episodes of the new Disney animated series, Star Wars Resistance. And in case you haven't watched them yet, there will be spoilers! Now, my name is Sarah Woloski, and flying with me through this journey is my husband, Richard Woloski.
Hey there, Skywalkers. Hey, since we were so busy last week with Halloween, we did not have time to fly by this third episode, Fuel for the Fire, which aired on October 21st, and we want to stay current on this. So in this episode, we will fly by Fuel for the Fire and the fourth episode, the Hightower, which aired on October 28th. So for right now, let's go ahead, Sarah, and dive right into episode 3, Fuel for the Fire.
Now, this episode was directed by Bosco and written by Eugene Sun. Those are some fun names.
But now I'm thirsty for chocolate milk.
What? Why?
Didn't you have Bosco milk when you were a kid?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I guess not.
And you never watched Seinfeld either.
I did watch Seinfeld. A lot. They talk about Bosco?
Yeah, that was George Costanza's password.
Oh.
You know, she wants to know my secret code. You want to know what it is? It's Bosco. You know, the chocolate syrup. I love that stuff. I pour it in milk. It's my favorite drink.
Okay, that's interesting.
Little Seinfeld trivia there on Resistance Flyby.
But let's get into the episode synopsis for Fuel for the Fire. Kaz meets a new group of friends led by Jace Rucklin, who is voiced by Elijah Wood. Now, Jace isn't the true friend he makes himself out to be because he has an ulterior motive, which includes stealing Yeager's hyperfuel,
Also known as
coaxium.
All right, Sarah, let's fly by your initial thoughts for Fuel for the Fire.
Okay, so this one I liked a lot more than the previous episode, The Triple Dark. In this one, I think it's my favorite so far because there's a good message. Kaz shows that he can grow, and he even risks his life to save a new friend. You know, someone who's not even really could be called a friend, but like just someone in need.
So putting himself in danger to help out someone else that really double-crossed him.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of, Jace isn't a good guy.
No, not at all. Not at all. But now, in this episode, we see how gullible Kaz is, since he falls for Jace's scheme. I know he wants to make new friends. He feels like he's tied down in Yeager's workshop. He's got Tam on his back all the time, and he's got Niku always there to misinterpret what he's saying, and he just wants to break out. So here comes this cool gang. They're sitting over there at the cool table.
Absolutely.
And they pull him in. So they see that he's an easy target, and he really is.
Yeah, it's peer pressure to the max.
Yeah. And I like that, seeing how this episode, this series, is really geared for the youngins.
Right.
The 6 to 8. They really make it easy for the young kids to follow, because whenever Jay says, "Hey, let's go have some fun," they cut to that sly close-up of his eyes. His eyes are shifting back and forth like he's watching a fast tennis game.
Right. Oh, nice. Shifty eyes.
They're very, very shifty eyes. So right there, the kids just know that Jace is a bad apple.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get into the moments that we saw in this episode that really stood out to us.
Well, being Halloween, I want to point out a heebie-jeebie moment.
Oh, okay.
And that's when the Arcona woman named Garma, and she offers Kaz a place to stay when the lights have gone out.
Hey, you can live with me.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And we saw her in the last episode, The Triple Dark. I'm not sure why they need this character.
Right.
And she reminds me of that old guy from Family Guy that keeps propositioning Chris Griffin.
Yep.
You like popsicles?
Well, sure.
And you need to come on down to the cellar. I got a whole freezer full of popsicles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's my heebie-jeebie Halloween moment for this episode. Now, how about you? You have a heebie-jeebie moment or a standout moment?
Oh, I don't have a heebie-jeebie moment, although there were 2 moments in this episode where that Arcona? Or no, the Arcona was being weird. But I do find that I really like the animation for Star Wars Resistance, and there's a moment when the swoop bikes are flying on the water, so you have, Jace who is chasing Kaz, and they're like racing over the water, right? Mm-hmm. And the shot is like kind of like the speeder bike shots where you see like the front of their faces, but you see them like going fast over the water. And just when Kaz's speeder bike crashes, and the way that animation is, it just really is amazing. And the illusion of speed was just awesome with that animation. So I loved that.
Yeah, the animation is top notch. And now, when this series was coming out, everyone was saying how much of an anime feel this has.
Yeah.
I've seen my share of anime. So I've got some kind of a basis in the design. Maybe I just need more of a tutorial in anime, but not getting that. But with that said, I still love the look of this show, the animation, the very first shot is very Macquarie-esque. Mm-hmm. And this show has got a pattern of always opening on that clear blue sky. And in this instant, you see the sky ring in the background, and the ace pilots are coming right toward the camera, fly through the rings, and the camera follows the ace pilots over there to the Colossus.
Right.
A great way to open up this episode, and knowing that there's going to be a lot of action to come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the first 3 or 4 episodes, we've opened on this nice, beautiful shot, and it's during the day. And I think in the next episode, we're going to see something different. But
right.
We'll get there when we get there.
Yeah. And then from there, we go into Yeager's workshop, and we see Kaz fixing an engine. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing to the fireball. Now, it's to my understanding, he's not a real mechanic.
Right.
So what's he doing fixing the engine of all parts to the fireball? If it were me, I would let him fix like the trunk latch.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And right then, there's another race. And Yeager tells Kaz, you gotta fix the engine. You can't go watch the race every time there's something going on. You gotta stay behind. And then BB-8 says, hey, you know what? If we move this engine toward the edge of the platform, we can see the race from there. So right there, it's telegraphed what's gonna happen. And you just know it's only seconds until that engine falls over the edge. Because why? It's Kaz. Nothing ever goes right for Kaz.
No, and that was one of my favorite moments in this. Yes, it's like totally a gag for kids, but we found ourselves laughing out loud.
It's definitely a Saturday morning moment.
Yes.
Because it telegraphed. The engine fell over the edge, and there's Kaz trying to grab onto it, but you know what? This 130-pound guy cannot lift a 4-ton engine. And we cut to a long shot of the engine plummeting to the ocean. And that long shot was hysterical.
Yep. I'm going to talk about that long shot more later in music.
Then to continue on with the sequence, Yeager comes back and he's just tearing Kaz a new one. And Kaz has to say, whoa, remember, I'm not a mechanic. Well, finally that comes out. He's not a mechanic.
I know your head is in racing and spying and all that, but remember, to everyone else here, you're just a mechanic.
But I'm not a mechanic.
Yeah, and if you're not careful, everyone else will know that too.
And at this point, I'm not sure why Yeager does not call Poe and tell him that Kaz is definitely the wrong guy for this mission. I mean, this is how many mess-ups?
Oh gosh.
Are under Kaz's belt at this point?
Like 4. Something like that.
Yeah, so I know Yeager wants to stay out of it as much as possible, but at this point, he's got to make the call. Just like what Alden Ehrenreich did with Kathleen Kennedy on the set of Solo and say, hey, Chris and Phil, yeah, these ain't the guys.
It's just not working out.
And then soon enough, we meet Jace Rucklin, voiced by Elijah Wood, and he wants to be the fastest racer ever. And he befriends Kaz because he knows that Kaz is in with Yeager, and Yeager's got the fastest ship ever. So he figures, how can I get to this ship? Oh, I'll make friends with Kaz. Kaz will lead me right to the ship, and I'll find out all of Yeager's secrets.
It's a good plan.
Yeah.
It's a good plan.
Yeah. And he wants some of the hot sauce
The coaxium
The coaxium, yeah.
slash Corellian hyperfuel.
Yeah, no, they call it Corellian hyperfuel, and they call it hot sauce.
We have to find that hot sauce.
Hot sauce? What hot sauce?
Hyperfuel. Highly unstable. It causes terminal blowouts. Yeager had a batch that he was safekeeping.
Why not just call it coaxium?
Yeah, I was confused about that too, because like when I saw this episode the first time, I did not make that connection that it was the coaxium that they talk about in Solo. But then when you go to StarWars.com and you see the Fuel for the Fire, the episode guide, you know, it mentions that the hyperfuel is coaxium. It's like, well, yeah, exactly. Why didn't they just call it that?
Good question. I would hate to think that they're trying to distance themselves from Solo.
Oh, no.
No, that would be awful.
I hope not.
Maybe they thought, would kids understand coaxium? Is that too big of a word?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now, another standout moment comes with Niku. And he's talking about Jace Rucklin and the rest of the gang.
Okay.
And he says,
Those young people are not all they seem to be, Kaz. They're lazy, always laughing, pulling pranks on others, not focusing on their work, having all kinds of fun. They're the worst.
Aw. As a kid, were you the worst because you wanted to have fun?
Yeah.
Well, I think it depends on what kind of fun you want to have as a kid.
Yeah. And I'm sure Nico's idea of fun is sitting quietly, maybe reading a good book, and fixing the fireball. But the kind of fun that Jace and his friends want to have, not his kind of fun. So
No.
he can't put this together.
Right.
Yeah.
And this episode is when I realized that BB-8 is really like Kaz's conscience. He's Jiminy Cricket. Because there's the scene where Jace is trying to persuade Kaz to come with them.
This ship is fast, but it's not even close to Yeager's. Man, I would love to check out that ship. See it up close. What do you say, Kaz? You want to sneak me a peek?
Well, I do owe you for saving my life. We're just gonna look, right?
But, of course, Kaz just ignores him, a lot like Pinocchio ignoring Jiminy Cricket. And, in fact, this whole episode is very similar to Pinocchio, who falls in with the wrong crowd, and then he gets in trouble by going to that scary island and turns into a donkey man. Mm-hmm. Only in this episode, Kaz doesn't quite turn into a donkey, but he does get in trouble and actually tries to save Jace. So it's interesting parallels there.
Well, we have BB-8.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need Bucket?
No, okay, so
I like Bucket. I
You
like
do?
him, but there's room for one droid, like Chopper in Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
And BB-8 in The Force Awakens. You have that one pivotal droid.
Right.
And right now, we have two droids.
Right, and they don't always get a lot of screen time. Like, BB-8 so far has had the majority of the screen time, and I wonder if that's to, like, bring kids in or something, because everyone knows BB-8 and everyone loves BB-8.
Yeah, and I'm sure BB-8 was that hook for the kids, because, like, what J.J. Abrams told Rian Johnson, if ever in doubt, cut the BB-8.
Right.
People will love it.
Right. So, but Bucket, for me, he hasn't really stood out to me at all, and I'm not a big fan just because I don't really know him. He doesn't have many moments, and honestly, his noises, they all sound too much the same. There's no, like, high pitch, low pitch, high pitch, like BB-8 has lots of different sounds, lots of different dynamics. So does R2, but Bucket, it's all the one note, and it kind of bugs me.
Yeah, so at some point, I want to see Poe come back and take BB-8, just if anything, to give Bucket some more screen time.
Yeah. And
I'm still wondering why Bucket's wearing that starfighter pilot helmet. It looks funny. It's a good gag.
Yeah.
But why is the droid wearing a star pilot helmet? So come on, we need to see more Bucket. Put Bucket on the bucket list.
Oh.
Speaking of which, StarWars.com is publishing articles with all Easter eggs. Would you say Easter eggs or just show notes?
Well, it's called Bucket's List, and basically it's a listing of little insider things, like behind the scenes stuff about the episode, either Easter eggs or like character names, and just to really flesh out what you're seeing on the screen. So we had a Bucket's List on StarWars.com for this episode, Fuel for the Fire, and here you go. We're going to go through this. So in the earliest outline of this particular episode, the young racers that Kaz meets, who of course in the episode are Jace, Lynn, and Gorak, well, in this earliest outline of the script, they had the placeholder names of Cammy, Fixer, and Deke.
My head would have exploded had they kept those names.
So, Richard, why? Why is that?
Well, these are Luke's friends from Tashi Station, the infamous cut scene from Star Wars.
Indeed. Woohoo!
Yeah, when he goes to Tashi Station and he sees all of his friends and then he sees Biggs. Those friends were Cammy, Fixer, and Deke. And Cammy, coincidentally, was the character we see at the beginning of The Last Jedi novelization.
Right.
Where Luke is married and living on Tatooine. And his wife is Cammy.
Wow. Good callback there.
Now, I wish at some point they'll come back to these characters because we want to see them. They haven't been introduced yet into the legacy.
Now, which characters are you talking about?
Cammy, Fixer, and Deke.
Oh, okay.
Because as far as I know, we haven't seen them. There's been some short stories with them in Legends, but let's bring these guys back. Oh, there's a vintage nostalgia plucking if I ever saw one.
All right, number 2 of Bucket's List. The design of Jace Rucklin's speeder bike is actually based on early Return of the Jedi concept art by Nilo Rodis Jamero.
Yeah, once again, another great vintage nod, and I hope they keep those coming because there's books and books of unused designs.
Yeah.
And they're just going right through them with Clone Wars and Rebels and now Resistance. Everything. Everything is being used.
Well, I think they will keep these coming. I mean, it keeps the fans happy, and it's probably fun for the creators to dive into all this old stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's right there. Fully fleshed out designs.
Yes.
Why not use them? Now, something else worthy to mention on Bucket's List here is the Opie Pit, who is the janitor on the Colossus. And this is the Lidsville type character we see in The Force Awakens, played by Warwick Davis.
Okay, the Warwick Davis guy.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, I call him the Lidsville character. And apparently, he is the only janitor on the Colossus.
Oh, wow.
This must be a very clean refueling station if they just need one janitor. I'm not sure why they made it a point to say he's the only janitor. I want to see a whole room of these, like a break room.
Okay.
Of all these Lidsville characters.
Oh, that would be fun.
They kind of look like little McDonald's French fry guys.
Yes, they. Oh my goodness.
So I want to see these guys on break. I want to see where they live. I want to see a whole swarm of them.
I think that would be cool.
Yeah, this is the Colossus's version of Oompa Loompas.
Yes. All right, well, let's dive forward ahead in this episode to another thing on Bucket's List. But when we were first watching this episode, Richard, and Jace and Kaz got into Yeager's private office, we saw in the background as they were talking a photo. And we were trying to pause it, going, who's in that photo? Who's in that photo? And then if we had just kept playing, they would have, kept on going and then looked at the photo and put a close up, and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's what's in the photo.
Well, there were two.
There were
photos
two photos
to speak of.
Yes, and the second photo was of Yeager's family, and there's an interesting black spire in the background, and so we realized that this photo was taken on Batuu, which is, of course, the location of Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland.
So we've got to get a flashback episode of Yeager and his wife and his daughter on Galaxy's Edge.
So I don't know if we'll get a whole episode. I think that was just a little nod, but I do want to know more about what they were doing on Batuu.
I think there's a whole series to be based around Yeager's past experiences with the Rebel Alliance and Batuu. So far, that sounds better. hate to say this, but that sounds almost like a more compelling series than what we have right here.
Oh.
Yeah, just because right now the whole premise of, I've said it before, Kaz being this this spy. So far, the premise is a little rocky, and so I want to see a Yeager spinoff.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like he's got a whole interesting backstory there, which is what we like.
And speaking of which, the other photo is he and another Rebel pilot celebrating at the Battle of Jakku.
Yeah.
So in the background, you see the downed Star Destroyer on fire. So, it just happened.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. It's like,
So there's so much story there to tell, and I wanna see those stories.
I hear you. I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
Well, you know what? Let's move on to Sarah's list.
Ooh.
Yeah, you're always one to point out the musical nods. So what do you have in this episode?
Okay, so let's get into our musical breakdown. Now, there's not too much in this episode that stood out to me, but I will say that when Jace was taking Kaz underground, through the underground areas of the Colossus, there are some interesting nods. And Richard, I'm going to have you hear this so you can tell me what this music sounds like to you.
Follow me.
Did that sound like anything?
Oh, sure did.
What did it sound like?
I want to say Land of the Jawas. Now, that might be the Kenner Action playset. But for the Star Wars soundtrack, I keep forgetting the exact name of this track.
Right. So what you're thinking of is when R2 and 3PO are in the desert,
They
right?
split ways.
Yes.
Yes.
And then you see the Jawas, right?
Right.
So yes, this is called the Desert and the Robot Auction.
Yeah, I always want to call this Land of the Jawas. But once again,
that's a good name.
Yeah, but that's the Kenner Action playset.
Oh, okay. Is that why? Okay.
Yeah, with the cardboard sandcrawler. Now, why are they hitting on this track for this scene where Kaz and Jace are going in the secret
Underground
passages of the Colossus to Yeager's office?
Come on, this is a little shortcut we use. Follow me.
All right, the only thing I can think of is it's setting a mood. So if you think about in A New Hope, that music is very unsettling, but yet it's not spooky or creepy. It's just like, oh, what's going to happen? Like R2 and 3PO. Think about watching Star Wars for the first time. I know it's hard because you've seen it so many times, but R2 and 3PO are on this new unknown location. You don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what's going to happen. And so the music is unsettling. I mean, this particular music, The Desert, that John Williams wrote, is actually based on Stravinsky's Rite of Spring. And the Rite of Spring, if you go back in time, it was released in the early 1900s. And when it was played for the first time in concert, there was actually a riot in the concert hall. Because people were so upset by this atonal, crazy music.
It's a great theme. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
When I first heard it, I knew exactly what they were doing, what track they were
referencing,
paying homage to. But
okay,
why not just do something new? Because now you're thinking, is the Jawa gonna pop out somewhere?
Oh, well, no. So basically what I was saying is it's that unsettling kind of feel that they were going for,
And
Michael Tavera was going for
and
here.
I get that wholeheartedly, but why pay homage to that specific Star Wars track? Because as a viewer, I'm not thinking about that concert where everyone ripped out seats and threw their beers at the stage. I'm thinking of the scene in Star Wars.
Right. Well, I think it is a little different. I mean,
but for me, it's too close.
Okay.
So I'm just thinking, at what point are we going to see a cardboard sandcrawler?
Okay. So it didn't work for you in that particular moment.
No,
okay.
it did not. And I don't want to keep hearing musical nods just to hear musical nods.
Mm-hmm.
if it calls for it, if we happen to get a mention of Darth Vader or the Empire, play a little bit of the Imperial March. If we see some Bith practicing, because we see a lot of Bith with their instruments, if we hear a little bit of the Cantina theme, yeah, that's fun and good, but let's not throw it into the mix where it doesn't really belong. And I don't know, is this fan service?
I don't know. I just think he was trying to set the mood. So I think let's move on though to my other moment here. Okay.
Okay. All right. I don't want to poo-poo any of the musical nods, but
that's okay.
If they call for it, then they call for it. Let's not force them in.
All right. Well, in this episode, what actually stood out most to me was a moment when there was no music, and I think it was far more effective. Mm-hmm. So once again, we're going to talk about this at the opening scene where Kaz is working on that engine, and the engine heads steadily toward the edge of the platform.
The engine!
And you hear the music building up as BB-8 gets worked up and tries to warn Kaz. And then the inevitable moment comes when we see a long shot of the engine plummeting off the platform. And you'd think that the music would kind of build up to that, right? And maybe Mickey Mousing go, something like that. So it actually cuts out completely as we see the poor little engine fall down. I think that was far funnier and far more effective than it would have been to have any music there.
Well, I agree. And like we've been saying all along, this really harkens back to Saturday morning cartoons.
Uh-huh.
It's a very Roadrunner-esque moment. I know we keep bringing Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote up in this flyby show, but whenever you would see one of them falling off the cliff, by one of them, it's always Wile E. Coyote. There's never music, it's always silence, and you just hear the... Wile E. Coyote hits the ground, you hear the kaplunk. That belongs in the Saturday morning cartoon moment.
Yeah, and then the music resumes once it hits the water. And I think that was just so cute.
Oh, hysterical. Very, very hysterical.
So, yeah, one thing about film music in general, and sometimes it's just those stretches of no music at all that then makes the music when we hear it actually stand out much more when it is used.
It's funny when BB-8 is trying to get Kaz's attention. He just rams right into him a couple times.
Yep.
Yeah, very, very physical moment.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. All right, so those were my musical moments for this episode. Like I said, there weren't that many.
Yeah.
But I think now we should get into some Easter egg sound effects.
Now, when Kaz is trying to fix the engine in the very beginning and it's failing, observant Star Wars fans will notice that same sound as the Millennium Falcon's engines.
Cheer.
You almost have... Keep going, will you, engine? Engine!
Like when the Falcon's trying to take off.
Uh-huh.
It's that same sound of the engine failing.
Oh yeah? Watch this.
Love it. Love that sound.
Yeah. And also when we see the speeder bikes.
Okay, Jace's
speeder bikes, yeah, has the same direct sounds as the Return of the Jedi speeders bikes.
And I don't even think they're Easter eggs. They're just meant to populate the world of Star Wars and put you in that world.
Right. And, I love the sound effect Easter eggs with the Millennium Falcon engine and the speeder bike whir.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's not the Millennium Falcon or the speeder bike. So, it is me being me.
So were there any other Easter eggs? Because I have one.
Oh, yeah. All right, I want to hear yours.
Okay, it's not a sound effects Easter egg, but it is a fun Easter egg, and it has to do with Disney Infinity. Yes, I'm bringing it back. I love that game. So, Gorak is voiced by Eric Bauza, and coincidentally, Eric Bauza was the voice of Luke Skywalker in Disney Infinity. So yay, there's a connection.
He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
No. I am your father.
No, that's not true. That's impossible.
Right. And you know what? I'll tie that into my new classic creature shout out.
Okay.
Gorak Wiles.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a Celestin.
Is Nien Nub a Celestin?
Yeah, Nien Num.
Okay, yeah.
Or Nine Num.
Right. That one.
Yes. You know what? I asked Mike Quinn, the puppeteer, for 9num, and he did say it was 9num.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you have it. So yeah, there's the new classic creature connection
Nice.
in this episode.
All right. Are we ready to move on to questions?
Well, no, we're not, because there's another Easter egg that we had pointed out when we were reviewing the Resistance trailers.
Okay.
And I thought I'd seen a Echo-based trooper in the background. And in this episode, in the next episode, there are a couple of Hoth Echo-based troopers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in this episode here, the trooper is seen when Kaz is racing to tell Jace how explosive the hyperfuel is.
Okay.
Yeah, he runs right by a trooper, got the cold weather hat on, the backpack. He's fully geared up.
Right, so Echo-based troopers are the ones that have, like, the helmets with, like,
They're
extra...
more hats.
Right.
And they get the goggles, and they get the backpack, and that quilted pants.
Okay.
And the vest. But once again, why is he here?
He looks awful hot.
Yeah, and if he is here, why is he wearing cold weather outfits?
You know why he's there?
Yeah.
Because they had the model in the computer.
But did they? Where did they ever use this model before?
In Star Wars Star Wars Resistance, right?
Well, they would have to build the model to use it.
I mean, Clone Wars. There's too many series now.
I think they just wanted maybe to pluck that nostalgic nerve and just really point out there's ex-rebellion soldiers here, and then we're going to see ex-imperial officers, and we're going to make that connection by their outfits.
Okay. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Time to move on to questions.
All right, kick us off. What lingering question do you have after watching this episode?
Okay, so once again at the opening scene, we have Kaz trying to be the mechanic, and he's working on this crazy engine. So why doesn't Tam help Kaz fix that engine before the race? I just don't understand.
Because Kaz is an on-again, off-again mechanic?
Okay, I guess.
Other than that, you're right. It's the engine, it's not the trunk latch.
Yeah.
So why isn't the chief mechanic fixing the main part?
Yeah, I don't get it. I guess so we can have that fun gag where it falls off. Because it's far more effective to see a giant engine fall off the Colossus than it would be a trunk latch.
I find that hysterical. I would love to see that scene.
All right, what's your question?
Now, my question is, right after the race where Jace's ship explodes because he put way too much hyperfuel in the tank.
Yes.
And Kaz comes to his rescue. And the eject moments before the ship explodes.
Yep.
And another Saturday morning cartoon moment where you see the two of them, Jace and Kaz, go up in the air and then plummet right back down again.
Yeah.
Great moment. But after the race, Jace gets all up in Kaz's face and blames Kaz for destroying his ship.
Kaz! Do you realize what you did?
Yeah, I was trying to save you from yourself.
That was my racer. I poured my life into that ship. All of my savings. Built every piece of it. Now it's gone, thanks to you.
Thanks to me? You stole the hyperfuel and you blame me?
You can't prove I stole anything. It all would have been fine if you didn't interfere.
Now, did he just not notice that Kaz saved his life?
Yeah,
Did he not see his racer explode in a brilliant ball of fire?
Yeah, I was a little ticked off at Jace.
Yeah, and Jace says, all would have been fine if you didn't interfere.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a cut scene? How is he not seeing the reality of the situation?
Also, can I tell you, I was surprised when Kaz, he's running to save Jace, and instead of yelling on the platform, hey, Jace, don't explode, don't stop, he actually jumps onto the racer, putting himself in danger.
Yeah.
It's like, well, he doesn't know when that hyperfuel is going to kick in and make the thing explode.
Good.
I wouldn't have done that.
Kids, if you're listening, if you know something's going to explode, get away.
Don't run towards it.
What's the message there? Well, I guess it's sacrificing yourself.
Yeah. I guess. Well, yeah, I mean, being selfless, trying to save someone in need, not even just a friend. So
yes, kids, always save a friend, except if they're going to explode, then run.
Yes.
Okay, I got one more lingering question here.
Okay.
Yeager tells Kaz that he's not a great mechanic and a questionable spy at best.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we agree he's not a mechanic. at all. And Yeager hasn't really seen Kaz's spy skills.
Right.
Since Kaz kept his spying from the last episode, Triple Dark. He never told anyone what he had done because it was his tactic, his scheming that brought the pirates down.
Okay.
And he had a little spy action in there. So why does Yeager say that he's a questionable spy if he had never seen him spy at all?
I think the only reason he says that is because Kaz is just drawing too much attention to himself, and any good spy needs to be able to blend and meld into the background of any situation. And Kaz obviously is not doing that, and wearing that big bright green thing, he can't do that. So, I think that's why he says it.
So I think a little bit too much faith is being put into Kaz, who's not a mechanic and not a spy. So let's make him a mechanic and a spy.
Well, an interesting thing about Kaz, he's supposed to be 20, and yet he acts like a child of like 8. And there's a disconnect there, I think.
Well, I guess he's got one up on me because he's a spy and I never will be.
Oh.
Rich, you will never be the rebel spy.
Oh.
You've got one on me, Kaz. You've got one on me. Questionable as it is. All right, Sarah, with that, let's move on to the next episode, The Hightower, which aired on October 28th. And now this was directed by Stuart Lee and written by Stephanie Folsom.
Now, this is one of the first female writers we've seen on this show. So, yay, Stephanie.
Go, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Now I want to see Katie Lucas write one of these episodes.
That would be great. Bring back Maul.
Now, in this episode, Kaz's mission as a spy kicks in, finally, as he discovers the First Order has come to the Colossus. Major Von Reg attempts to persuade Captain Doza to utilize their ship in eradicating pirates, ultimately putting the Colossus in the hands of the First Order. Now, this plan was set forth in the last episode, Triple Dark. So we're getting to see the whole conspiracy of the First Order and how they want to take over this fueling station, which is what they need. Great setup for this episode.
Okay, so let's get into our initial thoughts of The Hightower. Richard.
I am very happy to see that the plot is thickening. These first couple of episodes were light and fluffy. Now we're really getting into the First Order and what their plan is to take over the galaxy, starting, well, I'm not sure what starting with, but really going to the Colossus, because that's going to be the refueling station for their army.
Right. Yeah, this location in this area of the galaxy is very important.
And I really like the fact that the writers had started this plot with the last episode, because now we're seeing them all tie in, and the pirates were just the scapegoats.
Mm-hmm.
And if the pirates are attacking the Colossus, well, then the Colossus is going to need protection. And here comes the First Order to swoop right in and say, hey, we can help you out right here. And I just want someone to make the analogy as to how this is how Palpatine rose to power.
Yeah.
This is exactly a Palpatine moment. So I'd like to hear someone make that connection.
Okay.
Now, I'm not sure how much the galaxy knows of Palpatine's machinations.
Nice
but,
word.
No, thank you. But I really want to maybe have like an in-universe Star Wars history buff going, wait a minute, there's something familiar about this.
And if anybody knows, you learn from your history.
Mm-hmm. You really should.
History repeats itself.
And I can't wait to see where this conflict between Von Reg and Doza is going to go.
Okay.
So now how about your initial thoughts?
Okay. You're interested in this episode because of the First Order. I am really interested in this episode because we actually got to see some new locations. So the whole show really expanded in this episode. We get to actually go into Doza's tower, and we see the Ace Pilot Lounge. We see even Doza's office. So I really liked that aspect of this episode, and things are expanding, and that's as it should be. Like any good book series expands, like the Twilight Saga. You started with a small potatoes town, Forks, and then gradually throughout 4 novels, you expanded to include the whole world and the whole race of vampires and, all this crazy stuff. So this is our first step in expanding the Colossus.
The analogy I would have used is Luke Skywalker on Tatooine.
Yes, there you go.
But the Twilight series has been on TV repeatedly, so I think that seeped into your consciousness.
It's Halloween. Yeah, totally.
I got you.
I feel like we need to watch those over again. Maybe Halloween night.
They're on repeatedly,
I
so
know.
anytime you want to sit down and watch one, they're right there now. I gotta admit, I'm a Twilight head. Is that what you call them? Twilight heads?
Well,
or Team Jacob?
Okay, Team Jacob or Team Edward.
I like werewolves, so I'm Team Jacob.
Team Jacob, woohoo! Team Jacob all the way.
I'm not afraid to admit that either.
Hot-blooded, woohoo! Okay.
Keep your tweets to yourself. Now, when this episode first started, I had an audible gasp because, like we were saying earlier, every episode does open with the clear blue skies, and we see the ace pilots flying around, but now this episode starts off very dark.
Yes.
We see the Colossus sitting in the ocean, and it has that dark tone to it.
Right. Would you say it was dusk, or would you say it was full
No, this
night?
is dark. It's like the storm.
Okay.
It's like another triple dark storm is coming in. And even in that triple dark episode, we didn't get the lighting that we got in this episode.
I think that was foreshadowing. In the lighting design.
Oh, big time. Big time. And I hope this isn't just a one-off, but the plot is starting to kick in, so I want to see the tone start to shift with the story.
Yes. Yeah, so I really loved that opening shot as well. And also, I loved that we got to see more of Hype Fazon.
Hey, everybody, look who it is. Oh, you know who it is.
He got to say more than just woohoo as he's flying through a ring on the Colossus. So, and having talked with Donald Faison, it was so cool to hear him and his voice. It was hard for me to separate the two, actually.
Really? Because for me, I didn't really hear Donald Faison.
Oh, really? Okay.
We heard him a little bit, like you said, in The Recruit, but in this episode, he blossomed out of his Turkle-isms. His character from Scrubs,
Right.
Turkleson.
Right.
He didn't really have that voice. He had taken on a whole new persona, which took me out of the fact that it was Donald Faison, which is good.
Okay.
Because if you're hearing a character, you don't want to see the actor in your head.
Right.
And I think Donald Faison did a great job in really expanding his voice talent.
Okay. I guess I kind of saw the actor in my head, but I think I was trying to.
But then as the scene went on, I just forgot it was Donald Faison.
Okay. Well, one thing that Hype Fazon says is that ace pilots not only fly and try to win, obviously, but once they're ace pilots, they actually help the Colossus. So they bring in shipments, they control the skies, they help, get rid of pirates,
right?
Things like that.
Yeah, and this information should have been useful during the last episode, because that's the comment I had when you heard the intercom voice saying, "All pilots to your station."
Right.
As if they were the army for the Colossus, and I thought, wait a minute, they're just pilots. They're kids, playing around out there in the sky.
Right.
Since when are they the army? So this bit of information should have been in the last episode.
Well, not the last one. The previous,
yeah. I'm sorry. The triple dark.
The triple dark.
Yes.
Thank you.
Then I would have thought, okay, so they're not just kids up there messing around. They really have a job to do.
Right. So I liked that was expanded as well. We get more information about how the station works.
Now, when Kaz and Niku are playing with their new cell phones, I'm sorry, their comlinks, and they get too close to each other, and you hear the feedback, and we just know that's foreshadowing into something.
Absolutely.
And that does come back when Kaz is trying to spy on the First Order's meeting with Doza.
Yeah.
And he puts his comlink on the service droid's tray just so we can listen in. How no one saw that, I don't know.
Right.
And of course, he's found out, and he's chased by the First Order, who are only a few feet away, and they can't hit him.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, it's like, were you guys classic stormtroopers back in the day?
Oh yeah, we're keeping this in universe here.
Yeah, they're only a few feet away now. The First Order troopers, they're a pretty good shot, as we saw at the Jakku scene in The Force Awakens. They pretty much got everything they aimed for.
Yikes!
Now they're and he's wearing a Dayglow green jacket.
I know.
How do you miss that?
That was pretty funny.
Now, what were some of your favorite moments of this episode?
Well, I have one more thought before we get into moments, and one of them is that we finally get to hear some of Tam's backstory. Granted, it's not very far back, but Tam mentions, I think she had a thing for Hype Fazon, at least they were friends, and Hype kind of started ignoring her when he became an ace pilot.
Well, he became part of the popular crowd.
Yeah.
Oh.
Lots of kids can relate to that one. So I liked that, and finally, we get a little bit insight into Tam, and we can start to relate with her. So I was happy about that.
Yeah, but we're not seeing any arc of hers.
Not yet. But I think that's the beginning of an arc.
We're seeing some development, but so far, Tam has just been in a little grumpy huff for the series.
I agree. So I was happy to see that, and I hope that's fleshed out more.
How about a laugh out loud moment? Because I think we have the same laugh out loud moment.
Okay. Does it have to do with our favorite droid?
Gonk droid?
No.
R5D4?
No.
Mouse droid?
No.
Hold on. BB9E.
No. Meh. No, you're trying to vex me, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Stop vexing me.
And of course, the moment I'm referring to is after talking with Hype about Doza and the First Order, Kaz wants to start his spy mission and see what's up, and he tells Tam and Niku that he's got to go and charge BB-8, who plays into Kaz's lie and comically falls over.
That was like the best moment in the whole thing.
A couple of head swirls, and all of a sudden, bump. I didn't think that BB-8 would have done that.
No, I didn't think he was such an actor, but apparently he is.
Yeah, that was a definite laugh out loud moment.
And it also made me love BB-8 even more, and that's hard to do.
Now, one of my favorite parts about Star Wars Resistance is that they're bringing back classic creatures.
Yes. Okay, what were the classic creatures in this episode?
Well, in this episode, we get to see an Ugnaught.
Oh, my goodness.
And we've seen them, in The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi and Clone Wars and Rebels. But they're bringing them back for the Resistance. Now, we've seen Godels, Bith, Thorian, Snivians. So it was only a matter of time until they brought back the Ugnaughts. And do you know who voiced the Ugnaught?
I don't. Who
did? Bradley Baker.
Woohoo!
Hey, did you hear? Because of the power outages, there's a curfew tonight. Everyone needs to stay inside.
You mean that actor from TPZ?
Yes, the Star Wars fan film that we created so many years ago. Nice callback. So I think at this point we're getting down to the nitty-gritty of the classic creatures.
You think?
Now, the next classic creature I want to see is a Nimban.
What's that?
The Nimban, that is that Jabba the Hutt stand-in creature that we saw in the classic Marvel Star Wars comics.
Okay, yeah.
He had kind of a droopy fish face. He's the one that had the red suit that when they were doing the Marvel comic, they didn't know what Jabba looked like.
Oh.
They just thought, okay, does it look something like this?
Right.
So I want to see some Nimbans. I almost called them a Mimban. A Nimban. So that's something I'm crossing my fingers for.
Excellent.
All right, now let's talk about Bucket's list. And this is the list that StarWars.com has posted. And let's point out a few selections. What in Bucket's list really stuck out to you?
Did you know that there are space waffles in Star Wars?
I do now.
Aunt Z's tattoo on her left arm was called out as being a spatula, a knife, and a space waffle. Now that's a call out to the classic Marvel Star Wars comics, if ever there was one, where everything is a space something. Oh. Right?
Right. Space waffles.
Yep. Space pirate. Space something.
Space princess.
Yes.
Space outer space. Now, speaking of Aunt Z, in the back of her establishment, you see a shelf and there's helmets on there.
Yeah, we were pausing it, trying to be like, okay, what helmets are they and what significance do they have?
Now, of course, the most prominent one is the Mandalorian helmet.
Right.
But why was this so prominent?
Why?
Because it was minusing the rangefinder.
Okay.
That you saw Boba Fett and Jango Fett have on the side of their helmet. That they can bring down and really zero in on a target.
Mm-hmm.
This helmet did not have, and also Sabine, she's got a rangefinder.
Right.
This helmet does not. Who else does not have a rangefinder? The Mandalorian from the upcoming series, The Mandalorian.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I'm sure there's going to be that wasn't an accident.
Okay.
Because everyone who's worked on this series, they're Star Wars fan veterans. So they know where to put that rangefinder on there. And if they didn't, that's for a reason. Oh. So we see the Mandalorian, we see a classic TIE fighter pilot, and a Rebel pilot. And they
helmet?
a helmet. They never showed a close-up, so I wasn't sure if it was an A-wing or a B-wing helmet.
Okay. I wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, and there's also a clone pilot helmet as well.
Okay.
Those are the helmets where you can see the clone's face. So they're not enclosed.
Okay. Now, the one thing I was looking at Bucket's list and they were listing out these helmets, but they weren't saying why they were there. And I really want to know.
Yeah, I think it's more of an Easter egg than a purpose.
Okay, but why does she have random helmets and they don't belong to anybody? Or do they? Maybe they belong to Aunt Z. Maybe she was all these things in a former life.
I'm guessing they were lost during a bar bet. Since she bets on everything.
Oh, that's a good story.
Yeah.
Aunt Z, you couldn't stop this?
Stop it. I was too busy taking bets on how fast that kid would get his head squished.
Now let's talk about Hype.
Okay, yes.
And his ship and his racing outfit are all covered in logos, like you would see at NASCAR,
right?
Indy 500s. The outfits are covered in sponsors as well as their cars. Well, here, Hype, he's all covered in logos as well as his ship.
Right. And I think it's cool. Bucket's List mentioned that they pulled those logos from Star Wars The Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, and they even listed some of the exact episodes that they came from.
One of the logos they point out is the 79s, which is a Cantina logo from Star Wars The Clone Wars episode Orders. Another logo that is pointed out is the Power Sliders and Admiral Snack Bar.
Yeah, those logos were first seen on the planet Abafar in the infamous Clone Wars droid arc.
Gascon rules.
Yeah, okay. And a lot of his other logos can be found in background advertisements throughout Star Wars Rebels and Star Wars The Clone Wars.
Now, one they didn't point out, and I might be wrong on this one, but is that a Naboo N1 Starfighter patch on Hype Fazon's back?
Oh.
It's the definite shape.
But would a Naboo N1 want to advertise itself?
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe someone in the galaxy had found all these ships and converted them to something else. Yeah, I don't know. There's a million reasons how those ships could still be around.
Right.
Maybe some of those old pilots on Naboo just kept their ship. Maybe there's a Naboo starfighter graveyard of all these ships, and you have some historical buffs going, wow, we could really buff these up and bring them back to life. These are good-looking ships.
Perhaps. Well, one thing, I really like Bucket's List because it does give you a lot of behind-the-scenes info, and we get to hear from art director Amy Beth Christensen that she kind of mentions the lighting design of this episode is really meant to showcase, light and dark and things like that. So the entire central section of the Colossus, it actually has lighter colors and cleaner textures than the rest of the base. The Aces, if you look at the Aces Lounge, it's like this kind of light beige color. And then you even get into Doza's personal office, and that is the brightest and cleanest of all. So I don't know how that Remember in last episode's Buckets List, we heard that there was one janitor on the whole station?
And apparently he devotes all of his time to Doza's Tower.
Yeah. Because the rest of the station is much darker. Like those.
But he's always in the other parts of the station.
I know.
So I guess after cleaning Doza's Tower for majority of the day, he just gets tired and he wings it.
Maybe Doza's Tower has droids to clean it?
No. They said he's the only janitor, and I believe them.
Okay. So I just think it's cool that they thought about this relationship. And it's interesting dichotomy that this episode starts on that dark shot, the dark cloudy shot of the whole Colossus, and yet where the dark and shady things are happening in Doza's office, it's the cleanest and lightest of all. So, it's an interesting dichotomy there.
All right, now let's talk about the one standout scene in this episode.
Which is that? What is that?
That's when Kaz hides out in Tora's bedroom.
Yes, Tora Doza's room is amazing.
When Kaz is trying to escape from the First Order, he happens to have found Tora's room and dives in, and we get to see Tora and her collection of Easter eggs.
Yes! Oh my goodness! And immediately, we saw the first shot of this scene, and we're pausing it, looking at everything,
We had made our own list before seeing this on Bucket's list.
Yeah. So you see at first a Firebird design from Sabine Wren. So it's Sabine Wren's artwork. Also Max Rebo.
Yeah, the Ortolan
is a plush of Max Rebo. He totally stood out.
It'd be awesome if that was Max Rebo.
Oh,
as opposed to just that's a species, an Ortolan.
Oh, okay.
But maybe after all this time, Max Rebo is like a rock star.
Yep.
And she's got a little plush.
I wouldn't mind. It does have a few extra limbs, but whatever.
Maybe over time, Ortolans just grow extra limbs. And of course, we see a plush Ewok.
I know, it was so adorable. And then on the wall, we also see an action figure. It looks like a Zuvio, but it's actually not a Zuvio. According to Bucket's list, it is a Boosh doll.
Yeah, standing next to a Stormtrooper figure, and if they were in the Earth timeline and in this community, they would be made by Shogun. Shogun makes those stocky-looking toys.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so I think they're doing a little tie-in over there. A little product placement.
And there's also a Tuca doll. High on a shelf.
Way up high above the door. Now, my favorite Easter egg was the Jarek player.
Yes.
The Kenton Strider doll.
Yeah, you had mentioned that to Jarek, and I was like, what are you talking about? And wow, you have a good eye.
And I wouldn't have known it, but he was holding his club.
Okay.
Yeah, just him alone wouldn't have said anything, but he was holding that very distinguishable club.
Okay.
That he clubs the other character with. So they've got to make this stuff into actual merchandise.
Oh, that would be so cool.
I'd be all over that.
And, looking around our living room is like Tora Doza's room. It's got plush everywhere and action figures.
But the one thing that we need to complete the whole Tora / Luke Skywalker feel is the T-16 model. The Skyhopper model sitting right there, right in the middle.
Yep. That was so cool.
Yeah, how funny would it have been had Kaz burst in and she's playing with it like Luke did in Star Wars? That would have been the best Easter egg of all time. At that point, don't even try to top it because that's it right there.
Nice. Oh.
Now, Bucket's list also does mention a Bantha doll.
Oh.
I did not see the Bantha in there. And I'm wondering if that's maybe a callback to the Star Wars Holiday Special, where Lumpy had his little Bantha doll.
Yeah.
So help me if a First Order trooper barges in that room at any time and rips the head off of that Bantha doll. So help me.
That would be terrible.
Now, there's also a Boonta Eve pod race poster. There was a couple of posters that were hard to make out, so maybe that was one of them there.
But all I know is that plush things really translate well in this animation. It's amazing.
Right. It's kind of like Jyn Erso's room. We see a couple of her toys. I could see them selling this kind of stuff at Galaxy's Edge. Because everything, all the gift shop items will be in universe.
It is. It's supposed to be. Okay.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
ready.
Save your money now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now, Sarah, let's go to Sarah's list. Sarah's bucket musical list. And talk about some of the musical moments of this episode.
So there's a really great musical moment at the very beginning when Aunt Z is talking about Captain Doza, and she says, Doza is part of the First Order. And here is where the music really punctuates her comment.
I know who's behind this. Captain Doza. I think he's one of them, sitting up there in his high tower. They have power up there. We don't.
What are you talking about?
Isn't it obvious? You see the ships coming to visit him at night? Doza is part of the First Order.
Now, this being Halloween week, I really love that this music is actually over the title card for Star Wars Resistance. So instead of your regular Star Wars Resistance theme, you get this, kind of spooky, scary music over the main theme. It just kind of says Halloween to me.
Well, it's almost dun dun dun.
Exactly. Yes. It is the dun 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 of Star Wars at this moment.
All right.
Now, let's head to the Aces Lounge.
We feel so privileged.
Lower dwellers, welcome to the Aces Lounge. Here, you'll find the best drinks, the best food, the best views. If you want it, we got it.
So, did you get any feeling from this music here?
Oh, of course. This is the Cloud City music.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is not exactly the Cloud City music. It's a different melody, but the rhythm is the same. He's taking the same rhythm, and it's the same pacing as well.
Now, yeah, I can see this fitting in more than that Land of the Jawas theme from the last episode.
Right, this makes sense. It's a nicer location.
Yeah, it's very Cloud City-esque.
Yes, it's very upscale. So you have that same feel. So this was a great call out, I thought.
Yeah, this one I'm on board with.
Okay. Now, one thing I found interesting, music is really supposed to kind of display the emotion of the scene or an emotion to the character. Well, here in this scene, we are in the Ace Pilot's lounge, and Tam is talking to
Hype Fazon.
Hype Fazon, thank you. And they're talking to each other, and in the background, you see Kaz sneaking around. So the music is not displaying any emotion for Tam or Hype. It's actually Mickey Mousing the movements of Kaz in the background as he's sneaking around.
When I'm finished with the fireball, it will be a real racer. Even better than yours. Oh, you know what? I'm out of here.
So once again, Tam is just thrown to the side.
Yeah, exactly. Even musically. Aww.
One side note for Tam, she's always wearing these goggles on her head. And the lighting design does a good job of reflecting light off of them. However, it's very distracting.
Really?
And I keep looking at it going, wait a minute, is something displaying up in her visor, or is it just light reflecting off?
Oh, wow.
And it is light just reflecting, but I find myself going back going, oh, wait a minute, is there a message up there? Is there some kind of is this a communication device? But no, it's not. So, Tam, take those off.
That's why you don't wear reflective glasses on screen. Okay, after the whole crazy chase scene, we have Kaz. He's back at the shop with Niku and Tam, and they're talking. And we get this really adorable version of the Resistance theme. So let's take a listen to that.
Hey, Niku. Almost forgot I had this on me.
Joy! Now we can speak to each other whenever we so desire.
Yeah. At least when we're not in the same room.
It doesn't even sound like the theme, right?
No, not at all. Not whatsoever.
It doesn't, but it's because it's just played very cutely with some woodwinds.
All right, now let's hear the end credits Resistance theme. Yeah, if you hadn't pointed it out, no, I never ever would have noticed that.
Right, because it's just so different with instrumentation, and it's played slower, and it's played very cutely, as what is it? Niku's making a joke, as usual.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's fun that, as a composer, you can kind of pull the same melody, but make it sound completely different in different ways.
All right, well, good find there.
Yeah. So that is my musical breakdown for this episode.
Okay, speaking of good find,
Yes.
there's another Easter egg that I forgot to mention.
Oh my goodness, what is that?
You said you're done with the musical breakdown?
Yes.
Now, the service droid.
Okay.
When Kaz tries to covertly put his comlink on their service droid's tray.
Right.
Before he brings it into Doza so we can eavesdrop on Doza in the First Order's meeting.
Mm-hmm.
When the service droid is leaving, it says...
Hooky, hooky.
Yeah!
And this is the same sound that we hear from Attack of the Clones
Mm-hmm.
when Anakin Skywalker and Padme had just gotten to Watto's shop, and Anakin tells the rickshaw droid to wait right there, and the droid goes,
"Wait right there."
Hooky, hooky.
So any call out to the prequels, especially Attack of the Clones, I'm on board with. And how I forgot to mention that earlier, bad me.
Bad me.
Now, what are your final thoughts on the Hightower?
Okay. Well, I really like how this episode expanded our world here. So you get more of Hype Fazon, you get more of the Colossus locations, you even get a little bit into Tam and some of her thoughts and feelings. So overall, I really enjoyed this episode. And there were some really funny laugh out loud moments. Thank you, BB-8.
Right, so the series is starting to kick in now.
Yes.
And I hope this is a sign of things to come with the tone, the lighting tone, and the action.
Yes.
We still have not seen that much racing, which is how this series was pitched.
That is a very good point. Although in this episode, I didn't miss it.
No, I'm not crazy about the racing. And I don't care if we ever really do see much racing, because I want to see the unfolding story of the First Order and Captain Doza.
Okay, I'm actually different from you. I really want to see racing. And I remember the first 3 episodes, I was like waiting for some action to kick in. Whereas this one, I felt it was really good.
But from the beginning, I thought this was going to be nonstop racing. There's been talk of racing and a little bit of racing.
A little bit.
Well, I guess there in the last episode,
we had the speeder bikes,
the speeder
right?
bike chase.
Yeah.
That was some racing.
But you're not racing through the fun rings.
No, that's what I want to see.
Okay.
It's like Quidditch with the ace pilots.
Or
so now I do want to see racing.
I think that will wrap up our Resistance flyby of Fuel for the Fire and the Hightower. And once again, Skywalkers, thank you for your support. If you would like more Skynet in your life, then check out skywalkingforce.com. It's where we plus up our content and offer little extras just for you. And there are different levels of support available, which include extra shows, an exclusive t-shirt design, and free stuff. So be a part of the Skywalking Force at skywalkingforce.com. Now, if you'd like to support us in a different way, please share the show with a friend or click the links to Pozu shoes, Oppo suits, or TeePublic on our website, skywalkingthroughneverland.com.
And we want to hear from you Skywalkers on social media. If you agree with our questions, with our points, we really want to know what you think. So you can contact us on Twitter and Instagram at SkywalkingPod. Or you can go over to Facebook and search for our Skywalking Through Neverland group.
That's right, and you can request to join and answer the 2 questions that pop up. You can also email us. We are share@skywalkingthroughneverland.com.
Now, here is an excerpt from the next episode, The Children from Tahar, which is scheduled to air November the 4th.
20,000 credits?
Some reward for a couple of runaway brats. I'd love to score that bounty.
They're probably on the other side of the galaxy by now.
To most people, this waterball is the other side of the galaxy.
Give me another jet juice, NC.
That symbol. Have you ever seen it before?
I have not.
If I could find those kids, that reward would change everything.
But, Kaz, you are not a bounty hunter. I have seen bounty hunters, and you are definitely not one of them.
For that kind of money, I am. It's a win-win situation, Niku. I make a ton of credits, get Tam's part fixed, and help these kids. What could go wrong?
So until then, this is Sarah.
And this is Richard.
Saying...
Bye, everyone.
Fly by. Let me get to my notes, shall I?
No, it's okay.
Oh no, my page fell out.
If your notes were in here, we wouldn't have that problem.
Oh no. Oh. Okay. Okay. All right, so this one I liked a lot more than the previous episode.
Why's that?
I forgot the name of the previous episode.
The Triple Dark.
Oh.
Now, one of my favorite parts about Star Wars Resistance is that they're bringing back classic creatures.
Bringing back? Say it again.
What did I say?
You said like begging back.
That's it. But still.
Oh, I thought I had a pretty damn good point there,
you
Richard.
had a pretty good point there. Hashtag Sarah swears. All right, now here's an excerpt from the next episode, The Children of Tahar, which is scheduled to air November 4th.
The children from.